Hello and welcome to Bendy, a podcast about being flexible and all of the ways that means. Thanks for joining us. My name is Andy Young, and I'm one of your expired tariffed hosts. Joining me as always is our other expired and tariffed host, Beth Martin. Beth, a pleasure as always. What's the crack?
It's St. Patrick's
It
Day
is St. Patrick's
in
Day.
America.
Yeah, they were the only country that actually counts in America.
So Mike and Harper went to Target yesterday. Do you guys have Target?
No, but I think you'll be aware of what it is. It's like one of those big ma ma macro
Yep.
stores. It has
Yeah.
everything.
They have it's like, yeah, like Walmart, they've got everything. And it's
Yep.
like there's this, I don't know, it's like white girls love to just like go to Target and just walk around and browse kind of thing because they just have it's all like home decor and you know, I don't know.
Yes, we have
It's
there's a chain called the Range, which is very similar to
okay.
for
Okay.
people who don't fully understand.
Yeah. And so like it's a thing here where yeah, you go and spend time at Target. And I remember during the COVID days, and that was like one of the things that white chicks couldn't do would be like wander the aisles of Target and look, buy fake ferns. Anyways, so Mike and Harper went to Target yesterday. They came home with green t-shirts,
Yes,
a cake. We cooked corned beef and cabbage.
mhm. A dish I've never
Uh,
had in my life.
really?
Uh-uh.
It's so fucking good. And then Mike got out all of his like German mustards to go with it. So it was quite good.
Of course.
And Martinelli sparkling cider. We had friends over and we had this whole like Irish feast and it was
Nice.
really yummy.
I forgot it was St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah. I was sending Andy all these like, look at us and our shirts and the kids made leprechaun traps. And
Mhm.
apparently like if you catch a leprechaun, you get to make three
Yep, yeah.
wishes.
They're
I don't know if that's
genie
true.
rules. Yeah, genie rules. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so. Yeah, but
Mhm.
they'll trick you. They'll do those sorts of things where you're like, I wish I was drowning in money, and then you'll actually drown in money. And
Oh
so
wow.
yeah, I,
Oh
I
wow.
think
Oh,
I think.
that's terrifying.
They're mischievous. Surely you've seen those documentaries, the Leprechaun movies, like Leprechaun in the Hood and
Yes.
things like that.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
All based on real events.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just funny that like it's such a big deal here. It's such a big deal.
Yeah.
It's like again, when we talk about money and like profiting, it's a way to profit. And, yeah, people really celebrate it here though.
It's like, and I mean, like, I've been in Chicago for St. Patrick's Day before, and it was like full on. And
Bonkers.
don't get me wrong, when I was younger, I have absolutely, celebrated it both in Dublin and Belfast. I have went actually to Glasgow to celebrate it because it's kind of a big deal over there because there's like quite a big connection with Scotland and it's particularly Ulster and things like that.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it's sheer chaos, like, but I think as well, it's like, most of what my celebrations of it would be, it's so connected to drinking, and I don't really want to
Hmm.
drink that hard anymore.
Yeah.
Very occasionally, perhaps, but not all the
Yeah.
time. So,
Yeah, it
but
is
yeah,
here too. And we found Powers Irish Whiskey.
yeah. Oh, that's the one I got you guys.
Yes. And
Hmm.
so Mike had saved the label and it's been on the fridge since he finished the bottle.
Yeah.
And he brought that home. He got like actual pint glasses at Target. He was like the Target babe,
Mhm.
basically. Anyways, I just think it's funny. And so our friends were like, because I was like, well, actually, like in Ireland, they don't really celebrate this holiday very much, or like a certain large contingency doesn't. And they were like, well, what do they celebrate? And I'm like, I think it's more like Celtic holidays, probably, or at least you do, right?
Like again, remember the cases that we're,
Right,
occupied by
right.
the English, so it's different. And I think that, so much of that stuff and so much of the identity, it's funny, I was just having a conversation about that the other day.
Mhm.
That so much of the identity has been quashed, as a way to, jam Christianity or, the more organized religions down people's throats.
Right.
But they're starting to make a comeback, and you're starting to see more things, like that Bealtaine Festival that I went to last year,
Uh-huh.
getting big numbers. I'm going back to it this year. So there definitely is more appetite for that now, but I don't think we have any publics, like there's any public holidays even down south for any of those things, to my knowledge.
Gotcha. So, okay. Well, I was misinformed.
Oh,
Like whatever Andy does is what everyone in Ireland and Northern Ireland do.
I'm the terrible Irish person in that regard. Like, and I'll have friends who will listen to this who I'll get abuse from probably in
Right,
a few weeks from now when this episode releases.
right.
It's fine.
I know.
Um,
They love you.
they do. So that's
What's,
why they give me
yes,
abuse.
it's
Um,
true. What's crack with you?
so I saw Nora finally on
Okay.
Friday. I was in a bit of a like low mood, and I was like, you know, the cinema is my church. It's where I
Yes.
go whenever I need to, like, get out of my own head. And I
Yes.
really loved it, and I thought it was a great movie, and I thought like it was like, genuinely funny and sad. But like I thought the ending really kind of it was just rough ending. Like I just found it really emotionally like I came out of the cinema feeling, very sorry for Nora. I'm not going to spoil the movie, but like, what she had kind of went through. And also
Mhm.
like, yeah, this isn't a spoiler. Basically, at the end of the movie, I like heard somebody loudly go, "What you crying for?" And I'm like, "Did you just watch the movie? Did you just watch what happened in that movie?"
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
got plenty of reasons to cry. This is the first time she's really had an opportunity to cry about it all.
That's what hit me too. Like she goes through and yeah, I hope we're not spoiling too much,
No,
but she goes through some shit
she goes through some
and
shit.
she is tough as nails, like
Yes.
going through everything, putting herself first, like
Yeah.
I'm gonna get mine, like fighting people
Yes,
tooth
she
and
kicks ass.
nail.
Hmm.
And it's just like finally she was able to like relax
Yeah,
and have a cathartic moment. And it was like one of those, it's probably one of the most well-earned cathartic moments I've seen.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I thought like no, but I like it's true. I really enjoyed it, and it definitely doesn't feel like an Oscar movie, but I still thought it
I
was a
was gonna
fantastic movie.
say, yeah, did you think it was worthy of Best Picture?
Like I think it's a movie that'll stand the test of time. I think it's a movie people revisit, and it's a good movie. So I think it's the sort of thing that probably should be getting awards, but it's not what I would typically say was an Oscar movie at all.
Right.
I don't know what that says. I don't know what that says about like the Oscars and things like that.
Yeah. Well, I think you said a couple weeks ago that because I was like, caliber of movies is like going downhill, and what's with the Oscars? And you were like, this is all like a byproduct of the COVID days where,
Hmm.
everything was shut down and options were limited, and I don't know, this is what has come out of it, and maybe things will start to, you know, pick up a little
Yeah.
bit more. And
Uh,
also, like, we're a fast fashion TikTok generation.
True.
And so, like, just sitting through a movie for, a number of hours is hard for some people to do, right?
I mean, like it was why because I was so thrilled because basically I was doing some dog sitting at the weekend,
Mhm.
and I was staying at somebody else's house, and I was looking for something to do. I was like I want to get out for a few hours, and checking cinemas that are a bit further away from me that have a wider range of stuff, and just happened to see that Nora was on. I'm like,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
this is my
Oh,
opportunity because
yep.
I know that if I try to do this at home, I will struggle to I'm so struggling to sit through movies these days, you know.
Why?
I don't know. My attention span has went to shit completely. Yeah,
Is it because you're at home and you're like, I need to do this and this and this?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like even if I try, and I do make an effort if I'm watching stuff to like keep my phone out of like reach, like slide it the other side of the table, lie
Hmm.
down so I can't like fish around and get it. If I'm like, oh, I wonder about this thing, and like start looking up my phone, and then I see a message I need to reply to, and it's
Right.
awful.
Right. Right.
But yeah, so yeah.
I'm glad you saw it. I agree. It, yeah, it was slim pickings.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's just what this year of the Oscars has been. Like in terms of yeah, like we were saying, because the writer's strike and things like that, it's just been a yeah, it's been a weird one. It really has. But yes, that was the other thing I was going to talk about was that I was doing some dog sitting this weekend and I was doing it in somebody else's home,
Hmm.
which was an interesting experience. My first time doing it, probably my last time. Not because it was a bad experience necessarily, but I felt quite disrupted being outside of my own space, you know?
Sorry, you cut out a little bit.
Okay.
That's
Uh,
okay.
it's all right. It's all right. Okay.
So just repeat yourself, would you? Not
Yes.
because it was, and then that's when I lost you.
Okay. So not because it was uh, um not because it was like bad, the experience was bad, but I found it quite disruptive being out of my own home,
Totally.
right? And I mean that's
Yes.
what I really found tricky. So it was job was lovely, but like I was also trying to do shit, and I have all but you know how goddamn busy I am all the effing time. So it was just a kind of nightmare, you know. And like I was doing things with Sasha, so I was like, I want to drive back to my own house, get Sasha, take her to work, drop her off, go back to this house. So, you know, an interesting experiment, but not something I think I'll be repeating again in the future.
Yeah, it was like something I used to house sit for these people that had four black cats, and
Mm.
like one of them had diabetes,
Oh
so I
wow.
had to like give it its insulin.
Oh.
Yes,
Did you
that
have
was
to
like,
inject it with insulin or was it?
uh-huh.
Oh
Yeah,
wow.
yeah,
That's,
yeah.
that's a lot.
And they paid me and like, I ate all their food and
Sure.
they had a really like large uh supply of like, whipped cream in a can.
Mhm.
I always thought that was a little weird.
So people love that shit.
I did like
Like
six cans and I'm just like, oh my God. So,
I made so it was my girlfriend's birthday last week and I made her a creamy lime tart, a vegan creamy lime tart. And we got some like vegan squirty cream, which was
mhm.
fantastic. And it was really like
Like
so
I
good,
will say like gluten-free vegan food is coming a long way,
big time.
big time.
And
I had a
also
gluten-free cake yesterday and I
uh-huh,
was like, this tastes like real cake.
that's awesome.
I know. It
Okay,
was like small and it cost $30, but still.
sure. They're getting there. They'll get
Right.
those costs down as they improve the technology.
Sure they will.
I guess that's how things are going in the world these days, right? So one last thing I was going to talk about was so I'm trying to like get off my antidepressants at the
Okay.
minute,
Mhm.
but it's a full fucking thing. Like
You
basically,
titrating?
like speaking to my GP and he says I need to speak to a psychiatrist, but our health service, like specifically the mental health service
Yes.
that this country has, is in tatters essentially. And
Mhm.
unless you're, you know, actively going to be harmful to yourself or to somebody else, you're there's nothing for you, really, you know. So I'm currently playing this game at the minute. So at the minute they basically sent me we have nothing for you. Have you thought about trying CBT? And I'm like, yes, many times, many times, and it doesn't really work for me. So yeah, just fun stuff like that. So like, it's gonna be an ongoing negotiation. Currently, at the minute, as a hangover from COVID times, you cannot
Mhm.
make an appointment with the doctors. The only way to speak to a doctor is to call them at 8:30 in the morning and hope you get one of the telephone slots, which is a fucking nightmare. So yeah.
It's just I I had a phone call with occasionally I'll get someone who's like, hey, I have a friend who's got long COVID, like, will you talk
Mhm.
to them? And always, right? So it was like a three-way call because this person was like, I don't know you. And this other person was a connecting factor. And it was just like, yeah, we were talking about the inequality of healthcare in general and like
Yeah.
how sometimes you have to go to another country to get care. And I'm like,
Yeah.
can't you just drive across the border to Ireland and like maybe get better care there? Is that even an option?
No, not really, because, well, that's a very good point, actually, because, you know, I do have an Irish passport. That is something I had not even considered. I don't know. As far as I know, that theirs is, you know, because of the nature of how
Mhm.
intertwined our countries are, ours is linked to theirs in a
Yeah.
way, but I know
Yeah.
that they pay, so far as I'm aware, at least anyway, they do pay a certain amount, like a dividend into their health service. So that is interesting.
And I
Yeah.
wonder if, because like here you can do telehealth,
Yeah.
and I just
I,
wonder, like you maybe wouldn't even have to drive down. You could.
you can go private, and like that's
Hmm.
something I've thought about, but I'm gonna see if I can have a conversation with him this week. And like honestly,
Okay.
I just need a bit of a sign off, and like
Yeah.
I would like to do it with their approval because like I think what I might do if not is just like go down to half tablets for a while and then just wean myself off it,
Yeah.
but I would
Yeah.
rather have a bit of collaboration with them on that,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I'm just kind of like
Yeah. I
it's
have
just,
a yeah. I have a friend who's like trying to like in the States, you get a psychiatrist, you have 15 minutes with them. They're like you can't tell it's not a lot of time to explain what's going on, but like
yeah,
and then you do the the rotation of medications where you try this for a month, you try this for 2 weeks, you try right,
cross your
and you hope
fingers.
you cross
Yeah.
your fingers. And so she's going through that right now, and it's like Friday. She's going through a lot in life.
Yeah.
But like she couldn't even get anybody on the phone, but she's like, I know I can't take this drug anymore. I'm gonna go back on this other drug. So she's do and like not even titrate. Titrate means like weaning yourself off of
Mhm.
something over time. And she's like, I'm just gonna get off this cold turkey and get on this cold like right away.
Yeah.
And it's like I would recommend, yeah, like having someone walk you through it because it's,
Yeah.
it's real shit.
I hear it is real shit and I am not looking forward to it. So that's why I would like to do it without collaboration, but we'll see. We'll see. So that's
Can I ask why you want to get off of it?
hmm. A number of different
You can,
reasons.
and you can say I'm not comfortable answering that question.
One of the answers I'm not fully comfortable with answering.
Okay.
I would be comfortable talking about it offline with you
Yeah,
if
yeah,
we're
yeah.
not on
Okay.
the pod.
Yeah.
But like I think generally I am thinking like I've been circling this for a long time and I
Hmm.
really am like, I've never really found it to be super effective in terms of doing anything for my depression, like I've had some of my worst depressive episodes on them. So
Yes.
like what am I doing? And I'm
Yeah.
definitely getting some side effects that are like not like nothing major, but things that aren't like I'm not loving that I'm like, well, I mean, I'm getting no benefit from these. Arguably, they maybe help me with my sleep, but
Hmm.
beyond that, no real benefit,
Hmm.
And so like why am I doing this to myself? Getting side effects with no
Yeah.
none of the positive things for the
Yeah.
most part.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. And I've thought about trying to get off of mine, but I just need to get like a little more stable
mm,
before I do that. So,
I think, coming into this year, just for me, because I have felt, and I've already talked about on the pod about this, I have felt more stable coming into this year. I feel like
totally.
it's a good time. If I'm gonna
Yes.
do it, now feels like a good time to do it. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Okay.
So yeah, so I
Good.
thought, yeah,
Good,
so there you
good,
go.
good.
All right, shall we get into our topic for this week? Oh, actually, do you have any what's
Yes.
occurring before I do that? I'm
I
getting ahead of
don't.
myself.
I
Okay.
do not. No, no, you're good.
All right, let's get into it then. So this week, our topic conversation is death and taxes. Yeah.
Okay, so death and taxes in quotes is a phrase commonly referencing a famous quotation written by American statesman Benjamin Franklin.
Uh-huh.
In our and he writes, and our new Constitution is now established and has an appearance that promises permanency. Sorry. But in this world, nothing can be said to be certain except death and taxes. And that's from a letter that he sent to Jean-Baptiste Leroy in 1789. So this
Love it.
has been around for a long time. And I think it's even like he was the one that kind of coined it, but I think some version of that had been like floating around for longer. But
Conceptually, yeah, it
yeah,
had been, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, it's so, yeah, it's like, it's interesting. Like, I mean, the first thing I wrote regarding death was bring it on slash hurry up already.
Right? Right.
Uh, so those are my first two thoughts when it came to death as a topic. Um, I suppose, what's interesting to talk about, there's a number of different things because, within that concept of death and taxes, it is the larger saying is that these are the only two things that you're guaranteed in life.
Yes.
So the
Yes.
first thing I was thinking about this was, um, do you think that's true? And do you think there are other things that are guaranteed in life?
That's a great question.
Because I don't know for sure that taxes are guaranteed, and I think there's a shitload of people in this world who don't really pay taxes and like live outside of the system for whatever reason, or even like we
Mhm.
talked about the island of people
Mhm.
last week. They don't pay taxes. I mean, not that we know of,
That we know of. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that I think that debt for the most part is something that's a truth,
That's
right?
very true. Yeah,
Uh,
virtually unavoidable.
I know. Well, that's such a good question.
Yeah, like
What do you think?
I mean, I think that there is, a lot of kind of negative things, but I'm not going to go, too kind of hard into the negative things. But there's negative
Mhm.
kind of experiences I think that a lot of people would
Mhm.
have, negative
Mhm.
emotions that a lot of people would have. But I think that at least I like to hope to think that everybody will at least experience moments of joy or moments of happiness. I hope
Yeah,
that that's true
yeah,
for
yeah,
even if it's overwhelmingly bad, and I know that there are like situations around the world that are horrible, but I hope that there are those moments for everybody, at least a little bit.
yeah. And I know people, sorry to go back to taxes, but like I know a lot of people that like to be paid in cash and
Yep,
maybe don't always declare what they're making
yep.
and but they're still paying some amount of tax.
There was I think I saw I read it was somebody won $2 billion in the US on a lottery ticket, and after taxes received 424 million, and the comment was finally a billionaire getting taxed correctly. And it's like
Right?
just
It's
some poor
true.
guy who's like won. And I mean, like $424 million is nothing to be sniffed at, but that is a
Right.
significant drop from 2 billion,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Uh, we've got a car that
Mhm.
so like car tax here. So we sold our truck, I told you.
Yeah,
Car taxes like you have to pay for your registration every year and that goes up. You have to pay for your car insurance, that goes up. Um so Mike has started a business in Montana.
nice. I love it.
So we can because the car that we have will not pass like smog or
Yeah,
like right now it's not even drivable. But in Montana, you don't need to pass a smog or emissions test.
I love it.
So, or show up like here, you have to show up with the car and it has to be like, inspected and drivable. There,
Yeah,
they're like, whatever. So we now have an LLC in Montana that we're
I
gonna,
love it.
yeah, we
But
have,
like,
and the car is Montana plates.
oh, amazing. But and that's the thing. I mean, there's so many, like I think that's what's so like interesting and insane about tax is that there are so many loopholes that you can just kind of slide through.
Yeah, I wish there were more,
Yeah. I think
you
that like
know.
if you are, sufficiently knowledgeable about the tax systems, there are lots and lots and lots of ways to like, launder money, not strictly launder it, but be like, well, here it's in a charitable organization, or if
Yes.
I'm seen to be paying a significant amount of money in charitable. That's a tax write-off, so I can,
Hmm.
I can like save my taxes that way, and also it's good for PR and things like that. There's lots of little sort of angles you can go down.
So after my dad passed away,
Mhm.
we were trying to file the next year's taxes and like realized that he had claimed like, yeah, he bought an EV car and put solar panels on the house. Like
Uh,
none of those things were true,
Yeah,
right? But he'd written all that down. Just like, Dad.
and I think there is something like in terms of if you're like a small enough earner, there the chances of them
He
actually
was
making the effort,
self-employed.
yeah,
Yeah.
they don't give a shit about that a lot of the
No,
time.
no.
Um, Do you have any thoughts on that there's sometimes people will tout the idea of a flat tax? Do you know what that is?
No, but I'm assuming it's like everybody pays the same.
Yes. So it would be like everybody pays 20% of their wages or whatever.
Mhm.
And like I think that it was is absolutely open to abuse, and I think that like our highest earners, because of the nature of how their earnings work, it would be very unfair. It would be very kind of weighted against poor people, as you know, all tax systems tend to be, you know. But like
Hmm.
how obtuse our current tax systems are also is also not great, I think, and it really
No,
again also favors the rich and the people who
it
can
does.
afford
I
people whose
read,
jobs are to analyze this
yeah,
shit, you know.
I read yesterday that Tesla pays nothing
Yeah, which is
in income. They pay zero
hilarious.
income tax.
Which is a complete disgrace. A
Yeah,
complete disgrace. And I'm sure they
yeah,
get tons of like what are the words I'm looking for? Like they get money from the government to
yep,
because like, oh, we're making
yep,
jobs and things like that.
yep,
They're
yep.
bound to.
Yeah,
It's absolutely disgusting.
I know. And
Um
like, so our taxes go towards things like keeping schools, in good shape.
yeah.
And um, right now we're raising money for new bathrooms for the kids' school
Hmm.
that have not been redone in 40 years. And literally, like, the tile is falling off the the walls. And now the kids are like, oh, I can dig into this, right? And they're like pulling the tiles off the walls.
Wow. So
And it's just
you
like,
sure having to do a charity drive for that essentially?
yes,
That's fucked
yes.
up.
It's $140,000 for four bathrooms to be
Like why
remodeled.
that money isn't available to do those things is ludicrous. Like, and and I
Yeah.
also know about these things, drives for like teachers and stuff like that to make sure teachers have like supplies and stuff. And it's
Yes.
like this, it's
Yes.
embarrassing
Yes.
it
Yeah.
comes to that.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
terrible.
it
And
is.
I'm on the Parent Teacher Association, so it's like we're giving a certain amount. We asked the district to give us a certain amount, and they were like, "Nope." I'm like, okay, well, what if the health department just kind of wandered in, you
Yeah.
know?
Then you have to pay a big fine, and like that
I
wouldn't go
know.
towards fixing up
That's true.
anything.
That's true. I know.
Ah,
Yeah.
so yeah.
So, what percentage of tax do you pay in Northern Ireland?
God, that's an excellent question.
Look in
Uh,
your mind
well,
garden.
I'll find out. Like, 'cause the minute I'm self-assessing and because I'm so poor as fuck, I haven't reached the threshold that I have to pay taxes yet.
That's good. You're like, I
Yeah, it
don't
is
want to
good.
know.
But still, I do,
Do you have sales tax?
we, we do, but it's built into the cost. Because like,
Okay.
that's one of the things I find really, frustrating about,
That's shady.
yeah. So it's well, yeah. So like I find it stressful in the US going, oh, I have $20. This item is $20. Here's $20. Thank you very much. And it's like, no, it's actually 20, whatever.
Yeah.
It does my head in.
I
Okay.
think it's like 8% for sales tax or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah. Go
So
ahead.
anywhere between 12,000 and 50,000 is 20%. Anything from 50,000 to 125,000, it's 40%. And over 125,000, it's 45%.
That's a lot.
Hmm.
Do you also pay for like registration
I think we do. Yeah, it's a good
and like
question.
tags and all that kind of stuff? That's expensive.
Yeah, I
And like
think we do have.
insurance on your house and
Yep, yep.
car insurance.
Yep. All of that.
And then what the idea is that the systems are built in to take care of you.
Like I suppose, we have the NHS and things like that, and that's a massive tax draw. So like, we
Yeah.
have a health service that is free for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
So like that is probably a reason why tax is quite high. So I think that like we aren't as taxed as highly as like certain like Nordic countries and things like that, but I know that ours is like decently high in the
Mhm.
world.
Mhm.
Um, I I think I have never been beyond the 20% tax rate, and I never found it to be that brutal a bite. I suppose whenever you grow up with it, that's all you know.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
it's less of a thing.
Yeah.
What is it for the US?
It depends on your tax bracket. So like the more you earn up to a point, it's like the more you earn, the more tax you pay. But it's like once that then you become uber rich, then you don't pay taxes. It's the weirdest
Okay.
thing. I don't understand. Um, so yeah, we pay insurance, we pay for car and house. we have to pay for registration. And then the taxes are divided up by state.
Hmm.
So let me look in California.
I guess California has a
Yeah, so
quite
our
high.
state, yeah, and then we have federal tax and we have state tax. So our statewide tax rate for most people is 7.25%.
Okay.
And then the federal, I'm sorry, mine gardening,
So
that's
they
where
so
your tax bracket hits.
okay, so
And
these would be combined in terms of money that's
yeah,
coming out of your pay packets at the end of the
yeah.
month. Okay.
Yes, so federal is anywhere from 10 to 37%,
Okay.
and then
Oh,
you add
interesting.
your state tax to that
Okay,
too.
okay.
So yeah, so
That's a
it,
sizable chunk as well.
yeah, yep.
Yeah, it's like, I have been going through the whole self-assessment thing recently, and it's been an
Mhm,
interesting kind of journey because it's quite challenging to know, what things you can claim for, what things you can write off, and things like that,
mhm, mhm,
Um, to the extent that I'm thinking about hiring a accountant in future years,
mhm,
just to keep me right, and also to make sure I am, writing off as much as I can as well.
mhm.
Because like I think I'm going to in the next year be earning over the threshold, so like I
Okay.
need to like take it a bit more seriously, I think.
Yeah. Well, and like there are tricks that you can do in the States, like, you know, Mike works from home, so one of our rooms, like his office, if we do
Yes.
any work in there, that's right, you can write that
Yeah, so
off,
I read off a fraction of my mortgage just basically because I'm using some of this for business purposes.
which yeah. And like maybe you teach a yoga class to
Yeah,
one person, to your dog, right?
it's
Or
true.
whatever.
True.
So, and
No,
that could be like your kitchen that needs to be redone. I don't know.
there was like
Your kitchen doesn't need to be redone, but
I was hearing people talk about like being able to write off cinema tickets for like research purposes, and I'm like, okay, how do you get on this train?
yeah, we
Um,
could do that.
right? I think we could actually. That's right. This is technically as well. Um, but yeah, but like it's been an interesting experience, and I think I've talked before about when I was in Australia, essentially because you aren't a resident of the country, you can claim your tax back under certain circumstances, like student workers could,
Wow.
but it was a whole process, and it was
Because they don't want you to actually do it.
not really. And like,
Yeah.
there's lots of places that would just charge you like $100 for it, and I'm like, the money you were getting back from it doesn't really seem that's like that would be about 15 to 20% of what you might get back. And I'm like, screw that.
Yeah,
So
what?
I just figured it out. I just did it myself and ended up doing it for multiple other people. Um, because some classic Andy shit.
And you charge them nothing?
Oh no, of course not. In fact, I forced some of them to do it because I knew they needed money and they got angry with me. It's like, thanks, bros. They appreciate it.
Right, right, right.
But again, some classic Andy shit. I want to help you. Let me help you.
Right?
Fuck off, prick.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about, I know, let's talk about death, Andy.
Woohoo! Yeah,
So
okay.
fun. Okay, so I guess like what happens when someone dies in your culture?
Um, it's like very solemn.
Mhm,
Certainly Protestant funerals are. I think that the
mhm,
same could be said for Catholic funerals. I've been to both. But they are definitely solemn affairs. There tends to be a wake. There tends to
mhm.
be a lot of drinking done at the wake. As in like classic Irish style. I'm trying
Right.
to I was trying to remember earlier when we were talking about St. Patrick's Day, the Trent Brockman thing, where he was like, they were doing a St. Patrick's Day thing, and he goes, "Unbelievable! Can you imagine it? Fighting and drinking on St. Patrick's Day, something along, something along those lines." So very solemn affairs and very kind of like, I've only been a handful in my life. Thankfully, I've got to be very lucky, but like. It's one of the things that they do, and I don't really agree with it. Well, I mean, like whatever, but like, is they have open caskets and people can go and look at their dead bodies. And like, cause I remember my grandmother dying and
Mhm.
that being offered to me, and I was like, they kind of do it. I think I don't mean I'm only judging this from movies. They do it at the front of churches sometimes in the
Mhm,
US. Is that
mhm,
sometimes the case?
mhm,
Whereas they tend to do it like in a room in like the funeral parlor.
mhm.
And I was just like, I've no desire to see her dead body. I remember her as the lively kind of live wire that she was, and that's how I want to remember her, you know.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it's an interesting one. What about the US? Broadly the
It's like,
same.
well, I think it's not as uniform. I think people can choose. I've been to ones that are like celebration of life and there's no body. The person decides like cremation is more of a thing here, I
Yeah,
think. Um, so I've been to some that have been solemn, but really on the whole, like it's an afternoon. Sometimes there's alcohol, but not always. And then, it obviously it depends on the religion, but you know, again, I'm just like broad swathing this.
yeah,
Um, it's like a few hours and then you go home.
yeah,
And
yeah,
like maybe some of you choose to go like out to dinner, or like to a bar or something, but that's not really like part of it. So it's
yeah, yeah.
really not, you know, I feel like we should give it more gravitas and it should be more of a celebration of life
Agree.
and less sad. And there are cultures where I'm envious that they celebrate for 3 days
Yeah,
and everyone's, like a life is worth that,
yeah.
I think.
I agree, and I know, like I know there are people in this country, and I've known people in this country who like have celebrations and they play like always look on the bright side of life at the funerals and things like that. They
Mhm,
understand that it should be a funny thing, because like it is absurd in a lot of ways. It's
mhm,
sad, of course. Like I remember watching Treme, the HBO show set in New
mhm,
Orleans, and it
mhm.
was like the big like they would have bands playing, they would have like music, and it was like this seems like such a nicer way to think about these things.
Yes.
I don't know
Like
why it's
a
like
funeral in New Orleans is like the
off the
best thing
charts.
ever. Yeah.
Yeah,
They have like they have a few it's like a band playing and everyone's like dancing in the streets and it's definitely a celebration of life.
absolutely. Yeah, I love it, and that's as it should be. And I think there's like a lot of African cultures and stuff like that that also have
Mhm,
celebrations of life and things like that.
mhm.
And I do like love the um I'm going to forget details of it. I'm like, I have to search my mind past in a second, but like the Asian kind of culture celebration of like death and like lighting candles, and they have certain holidays, times of the year where they like
Mhm.
visit graves and they light incense sticks and stuff for them.
Yeah,
I think there's
yeah.
some
The
lovely traditions there.
Day of the Dead in
Mhm.
Mexican Spanish cultures, like that's awesome.
It is.
Like you put out like you literally are like welcoming them back in for a day and a night and partying and you put out their favorite food and drink and
Yep.
you know um it's lively and wonderful and it's a huge party.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know. Then I was like, okay, well, do I want to have a funeral for myself? Like, would I want that? And like, do I want to be cremated? And like there's also like the option where you can be buried under a tree.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah. I thought so too. So
I my
like
my request is like I'm jammed into a recycling bin, but apparently you're not allowed to do that.
not unless it's suspicious circumstances.
Exactly. Whoa, whoa. We can't take this. We can't take it. Um, sorry, I cut you off.
Would you have a funeral? Like would
I
you
am
want
not
people?
interested now. I am
Me
not
either.
interested in people spending the money they need to live to put me
Yeah.
in the ground. Like
Yeah.
absolutely like worst case scenario. Like have a celebration, get people together. Awesome. Like you can talk about um how great I am and how beautiful my hair was, etc., etc. All those good things. Um, And but like, I don't need people spending money on a big friggin', occasion of that for that. It's ridiculous. I think cremation and spreading my ashes somewhere, if I had to pick one of the options, which I guess I do, would be my preferred way.
Mhm. I would, I'm on the same page. The idea of, I mean, I watched the show called, it doesn't matter. Well, it's called
Mhm.
Apple Cider Vinegar, and it's
Oh
about this
yeah.
like um lady Belle Gibson
Hmm.
who basically was like, I have cancer. And then she started like, this whole app where you could be healthy and it would cure your cancer kind of
Oh
thing.
yes. Hmm.
Yeah. And one of the characters in the story goes to Peru and she does ayahuasca and she's like she ends up in the forest by herself and she like sits down and she's like covered in leeches and then the leeches all fall off her body and all of a sudden her body starts to decay and out of her body is springing like ferns and flowers and
Yeah,
so it's really like she's you know seeing the process of the circle of life and how
I love it.
that's everything and then I'm like well should I feed the worms right and
I mean,
like
like, ultimately,
the
we will
buzzards
ultimately we will all feed the worms. Like, I mean, one of the
yeah
things I really cannot get over, like, spending money on an expensive piece of wood to. I also
yeah
think that, like, and I think
they're
it is.
expensive
They are expensive, very expensive. And like sometimes that I mean, like why whenever they cremate you, somebody's cremate you in them as well. And it's like, what the fuck? Just throw me in a bag, bin bag, black bin bag, put me in there. Perfect. That's all you need. It's nuts to me. And that's a whole industry, and I suppose that's why it happens, is because like there's money to be made there, which is, the reason
yes.
why all things
Well, and
happen.
it's yeah, it's like we also it's not like you're gonna bargain hunt at that
Yeah.
time where you're like, oh no, let me shop around a little bit.
Yeah. How much is the one with the stain on
Uh-huh.
it?
So my dad was cremated,
Uh-huh.
didn't want a funeral,
Yeah.
didn't want to be buried in the ground,
Yeah.
but didn't tell us what he wanted us to do with his ashes. So he's been sitting in my mom's like closet.
Oh, you told me about this.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and my friend was like, get him out of the closet. He doesn't like put him in the house at
Yeah.
least, like in the living room or something. And then finally, he's been dead for a very long time, but he
Hmm.
was so great. We finally like divided up the ashes. I got some of his ashes, and you know what I did? I put him in the closet.
Love it.
And it's also weird because there's no tombstone, there's no
Yeah.
place to visit.
Yeah.
And so I'm just kind of taking little bits of dad and like putting in places that I think he would like.
I like
And
that.
then I'll probably like turn part of his ashes into a piece of jewelry,
Yep.
that I can have and then that can get passed down. But I will say like he went super rogue with it and I didn't get closure,
Yep.
which is, fine. And I don't have a place to visit. But I think, like, thinking about it, I gotta get him out of the closet
Yeah.
and put him somewhere
For
like that
sure.
that he can, have a
Yeah.
nice view of outside
Somewhere
or
in nature. I was
whatever.
going to say somewhere in nature, somewhere nice. Yeah. Somewhere beautiful. I
Yep.
think, yeah.
Yep.
I like that a lot. Like,
Yep.
I think that is and maybe it's my hot take. I think I started saying this earlier, which is I think tombstones like are kind of obnoxious. I know this may be controversial because it's just like such a waste of land, and for what? And for like a lot of these graves are going to be in 100 years or so completely forgotten what their meaning is. It's just
Hmm.
taking up space.
Hmm.
And to what end? It's I don't get it. It just feels like you know oh, I'm going completely lost for words here. But it's just like an ego thing through death.
Yeah. I visited New York. I don't know. Instead of having a funeral, we went back and we saw like where my dad grew up and
That's
so
nice.
he worked in Manhattan, but he lived in Brooklyn and they moved to Staten Island. And so, seeing all the houses and everything. And I lost my point. What did you just say?
Manhattan houses, what did I just say? Oh,
No.
gravestones being kind
Oh
of
yeah.
monuments to
So
ego.
then,
Yeah.
so my aunt and uncle took us to like all of our like family plots
Hmm.
in the cemetery that's I think it's either Brooklyn or Staten Island. But like they have like mausoleums, like
Yes.
big
Yes.
ass, like little tiny, I don't know, they're big like they're big buildings.
Yeah.
And that's where like the family's buried. And there, we had like four or five of them in the cemetery. And I was just like, this is a lot.
Like, I don't think there's many people who are like so important that they need.
I'm not a, yeah, it's like none of them were crusaders or anything, right?
No. Like I'm trying to think who am I looking for? Like I like that you know, Oscar Wilde, for example, has a gravestone and people can like hang out there in frilly shirts and like, be tortured. Poets,
Yes.
like I can understand the value of something like that, but by and large,
Yes.
come on,
Yeah.
you know?
Jim Morrison, I think, is buried in
Yes,
Paris.
he is.
And like everyone like leaves stuff on his
Yeah.
grave.
He was
And like,
he
huh.
died super young, didn't he?
He was in the like 20,
27
was it
Club?
27 Club, I
Yeah, I
think.
think you're right.
Um, and then I read that, or I was listening to Prince Harry's book, and his like Princess Diana, there's like a huge property, their family property. There's like a lake, and in the middle of the lake, there's a little island, and she's buried on that island because like they were like in death, we want her to have like peace and not be
Mhm.
bothered. And so like you have to, in order to go visit her, you have to be a member of the family, and you have to go to the island in a tiny rowboat. So
Very nice.
I just want to haunt something or
Yeah,
be like haunt
yeah,
someone or some place where like, you
yeah.
know, like the Winchester House, or like Harper got a book that's like the scariest ghost places to visit.
Uh-huh.
And like we're going up to LA next week, and there's this one house that she wants to go to because it's like
Okay.
super spooky and scary.
I love
And I'm
it.
like, is it time to buy her a Ouija board? It might be.
Ooh, interesting. Um, yeah, I do love that. Like, and I love a bit of, ghost stories and like hauntings and things like that. I think there's something very cool about them, and it's also the idea that we like, have no idea what is there after.
What do you think is there, Andy? Where do we go when we die?
Um,
Um,
I think it's probably that, karmic wheel. I think like, I mean, I really have no idea, but I am like open to concepts, but like, I feel like there is something to be said for the idea that energy doesn't never completely disappears, it just kind of goes somewhere else. I don't know where.
mhm,
Um, I feel like what'll happen to me and I'll find out I'll be the a lucky fucker who turns out to be immortal. Like,
right.
I gotta keep doing this shit.
Uh-huh.
So like I'm, excited to see. Like I am nominally fearful of death. I feel like I was a lot more fearful of it as a kid, but now I'm kind of like, yeah, it's gonna happen. And it is what it is. Like.
Yeah. I used to be less fearful of it, and then I had kids, and now I'm
I
terrified.
understand that. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes a ton of sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I mean, like, check with me again
Yeah.
whenever something happens with Sasha.
Right.
I'll tell
Right.
you how I'm feeling about death then.
Right.
Oh, it's so
Right.
horrible.
I know. I know.
Taking my baby away from me,
Yeah.
etc., etc.
I don't know. Like I watched some show not too long ago, and it was like all these people that had near-death
Hmm.
experiences, and like we're like, yeah, there's something there, and you know, they had similar stories, and but then people are like, well, it could be, the brain slowly depleting of oxygen, and that's just like
Hmm.
what
Hmm.
you see or whatever. But you and I have a mutual friend
Hmm.
that was a teacher that died, right, for like 40 minutes.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, what was there? Is there anything there, basically? Because I was upset about my dad, and wanted to know, like, is he out there? Is he there? And
Hmm.
he was like, Beth, like, look at how beautiful this world is. Like I'm not going to tell you, but I just,
Yeah, so true.
he's
Yeah,
with you. And I was like, okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I forgot about that. Actually, I completely have
Yeah.
forgotten about that. I was like,
Yeah.
I at first thought it was somebody else we're talking about. And it's like, no, no, I get it.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, uh, yeah. I mean, it's fascinating, and it's like, just another part of this crazy existence. At the end of the
Yeah.
day,
It is. And it's not the end either,
no,
I don't
absolutely
think.
not. No.
Taxes are, but death is
Yeah,
not.
yeah, yeah. So, what do you prefer, death or taxes?
I
What's your
ooh,
favorite?
gonna go with death.
Yeah, me too. Death over taxes all
I know.
fucking
I
day
didn't realize we were
long.
like gonna get to death versus
And in a rating
taxes.
system.
Yes.
I mean, I think everybody's going to pick death over taxes. Probably not.
Probably. I don't know. Let us know,
Yeah,
listeners.
let us know. What's your vote?
What's your
Vote in your favorite.
vote?
What's your guy? What's your guy in this fight? Um, but yeah, I don't. If you have any other thoughts or anything.
I'm looking through my notes. Um, I guess like yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I don't think I yeah. I don't honestly. I don't. I'm not as afraid of death. Had my dad not passed away,
Yes.
I think I would have been more afraid. But now it's like I might have this little like safety guarantee that like I get to see him again.
Yeah.
And
I
in that way, I'm like, that would be so fucking cool.
absolutely. I love that. Yeah, I love that concept, and I think I love that for you as well. I
Thank
th
you.
it's interesting that saying that because like I think about it like and I have been touched. I've been really lucky in that grandparents and things like that have died
Mhm.
in my lifetime, but by and large, I have not had to deal with any sudden deaths, any
Mhm.
unexpected deaths. Do you know what I mean? And I feel extremely lucky for that. And I wonder whether it would change my opinion about the whole thing had I
Yeah,
experienced that.
yeah, yeah. And I just wish, for everyone that it all happens like in the right order, the best outcome in
Agreed.
the correct order of things. But that's just not how things work.
Yep.
The most important question though is if you die, Andy,
Hmm.
who gets your board games?
Nobody, I'm taking them with me. So like it's
Okay.
a like an Egyptian pharaoh type thing where I want to be
Uh-huh.
buried with them and
Yeah.
be surrounded
Okay.
by them.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, that's
Okay.
the
Okay.
deal.
Noted.
Okay, good to know. I
You
want you
heard it
to
here, folks.
make sure my wishes are fulfilled, Beth. Is very important
Okay.
to me.
Okay.
We'll lead
Do
a
you have
big
anything else? Any
we'll lead a big
questions?
ass tomb. No, I don't think
I
so.
know.
No,
Put it in the mausoleum.
but at the mausoleum, yeah. No, I don't think so. All right, awesome. So, shall we get to our favorite section of the episode?
Yes.
What's been
Yes.
bringing you joy
My
this week?
dog.
Your
My
dog?
dog. My
That
dog.
dog.
That dog.
Mm-hmm.
She's like I had a friend who visited a couple weeks ago whose father passed away.
Mm-hmm.
So she was just like, I just want to be around life and the kids and the dog. And like, I'm just realizing, like, I see her and how awesome she is, but other people like come over. And I think maybe 75% of the reason they come over is to be able to hang out with Star.
I hear you.
Yeah. So she's just so sweet and like jumps in
She
people's
is. Yeah, she
laps
does.
and she'll stand up to get a treat and she's just so happy and
She
like
is.
Mike and Harper went to Target yesterday and like I was home with Charlie and she could hear the garage door opening and she was making all these like super weird whelping sounds and just like the love that she has for her family and that like we have for her and the love that other people have for her. She's just
Hmm.
this little like fluff ball of joy that eats her own shit. So
Yeah.
I overlook that, but like uh I just love her.
Yeah, she's a sweetie.
She's the best.
I think she does one of my favorite things. She does like a little kind of grin sometimes. She does like a wee.
Yes.
It's just so cute, and
With her little
and
snaggle teeth.
yeah, with the snaggle teeth, yeah, and Also, she loves to play with you. So like I remember whenever I was over, she would play a game with me where because you have like an L-shaped sofa
Yeah.
and she would run, sprint from one side to the
Yes.
other, and you would try to catch her, and I would try to like catch her out halfway around, and she caught me on every time, but it was so much fun. Sprinting full speed from side to side of it.
Yeah.
It was so good.
I think part of it too is I just gave her a bath so she's clean and
That's the best dog time.
easy to snuggle.
Yeah, this is so true. Whenever they're non-stinky, yeah, you love them more.
Right. It's true.
A
What
lot of it.
about you? What is bringing you joy?
So, Daredevil, Born Again. I've had a lot of TV ones recently, but I don't care.
That's good.
Daredevil, Born Again started off, which I'm thrilled about because, like, I think Daredevil's my guy. Like, I mean, I think
Really?
so right. Spider-Man a number one with a bullet because like he was the who I knew about, but like in terms of my probably almost as important, if not quite the same, would be Daredevil because like he's just cool as fuck. He's got a great power set. He is like even more of a like he doesn't really have any superpowers really. Like he has like radar vision and he's got heightened senses and stuff like that. But he's just a dude who like puts himself out there and gets his ass kicked. Um, and I've always kind of loved sort of like, oh, this tortured Catholic boy, and like, like he just like gets all these women like falling over, you know. Um, so it raw, and I think in terms of the Netflix Marvel shows, Daredevil was my favorite. I really like Jessica Jones a lot as well, but Daredevil just because I have such attachment to the character. I do not want to talk about Iron Fist though. That was just not good. Anyway, so I'm
Did you
so
like
thrilled.
the Ben Affleck Daredevil?
I did at
Uh,
the time, I think.
uh-huh,
I'm
uh-huh.
sure that I did, but like, and I was excited.
I don't know if I've ever watched it or like rewatched it. I maybe
You
seen.
kind of need to watch it just for Colin Farrell's Bullseye, Irish
Okay.
Bullseye, who is
Okay.
bonkers. Like, I mean, don't watch it. But like it's ludicrous for that reason alone. But yeah, I mean like so I'm so happy to see Daredevil back in kind of the MCU and getting pretty good treatment.
Good.
So yeah, it's nice having a Marvel show that I'm excited for again because like Marvel has been in
Eh,
recent years.
yep. Yep.
So yeah.
Too much of a good thing can be not a
Oh,
good thing.
100%. I think as soon as like these things start making, billions, there'll be
Yeah.
people in going, look, you know what we like is more billions, so can we just have more
Yes.
content?
Yes.
And that just
Yes.
this is devastating for creative like talents, it really is. So yeah. Oh well, money once again.
Right.
But anyway, right,
Power
okay.
and money.
Our money, our favorites. All right. In that case, oh yes, Beth, can you tell everybody where they can find us and whatnot?
Yes. You can find us at bendypodcast.com.
Sweet. All right. In that case, folks, do we through clear first? We'd like to remind you, as always, to stay bendy.
Bendy.
What pipes we have this
I
season.
know. I'm impressed with myself this week. I gotta
Right.
say.
All right. We love you. Bye, bye,
Love you.
bye.
Bye, 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 bye. This is